My name is Daniel Robus, and I'm your host in Conversations to Take You Places. And today we are joined by a guest who's a little bit intimidating. He is in Naboomspruit, so that's okay. He's on an out-of-town mission. Warrior Ric, where my warriors at? Getting ready for this interview, I felt I needed to do something extra special. So I did 100 before breakfast and squeezed in a run. No, I'm kidding. Friday is my day off. The 100 is push-ups, sit-ups, leg raises, squats, and box jumps. But I didn't do it this morning. And it was more about where do I start with you, Ric? You are a man from the USA. You've moved into Africa. You graduated from an amazing university. You've had multiple careers. You've been an actor, model. You traveled the world, yet you've settled in our country. You've made obstacle courses cool again for adults. You're synonymous with positivity, energy, and potential. Where my warriors at? Why is that your slogan?
It's about presence, Donnie. It is, and by the way, where my warriors at, even where my soldiers at, often I say, because even you understand soldat, I'm sure in Afrikaans, quite clearly that's a warrior. And by the way, it's often, pronounced warrior amongst my Afrikaans soldiers. And that's fine. That's all good. But I want to make sure they understand I'm talking about a war. There's a war going on, and there has been a war going on since the beginning of time. I'm running into people, Christians, non-Christians, believers, non-believers, that are saying, this feels like the end times. Well, it was predestined that these times would be dark. So warrior actually comes from Ephesians, quite frankly. It's the aspect of us not fighting against flesh and blood, but against spiritual wickedness, against authorities and principalities in dark places. And that's what's been happening. I mean, pre-COVID, during COVID, now in a post-COVID world where I was looking forward to rainbows and unicorns. And it's like, the times have gotten worse. But the beautiful thing about being a warrior, Donnie, and asking where my soldiers at is about being present. And it's about being present, not just in the physical body, but in mind, body, and spirit. So as we fight this wickedness, this darkness, this deceit, this hatred, we do it in the present tense. I can't see the future. I'm not clairvoyant. I'm not a Sangoma. I'm not a soothsayer. But what I can tell you is that things will get worse before they get better. But in the present moment, in Naboom, right here in Naboom, I'm living my best life. I have engaged already with some of the folks here at SPA, at the Naboom. They have greeted me with kindness. They have greeted me with love and generosity. And I'll tell you something, even if they didn't, I greeted them that way. So I received it as I spoke it and said good morning and goeiemorgen. As I spoke it, I received it because this is fertile ground. Where are my soldiers at? Right here with you, my brother.
Wow. Now, being a life coach is not an easy choice. Why didn't you just fall for the golden handcuffs? Why didn't you stay on this side of the camera? Why didn't you just learn your lines and take the party line? Why have you broken away?
I love what Steve Jobs says when he says that you can never calculate the dots going forward. You can only calculate them going back. So I know who I am, and I know who I am here because I've paid attention to what brought me here. So you mentioned model, commercial acting, which is what brought me here physically to South Africa in 1994.
Yeah.
It's where I met my wife at a club called Nicky's in Rosebank in 1994. The third day I was here, Donnie. How's that? But that physical meeting was just a small part of the bigger why.
Yeah.
I'll think of the name, but Mark Twain, the two most important dates in your life are when you are born and when you find out why. So the finding out why wasn't because I met my wife. The finding out why was, as Steve Jobs says, looking at the dots going back, I realized I always prayed to have a big family. She comes from a big family. We have 2 children together. She has a child from a previous marriage. I have a child from a previous marriage. With her first child, our daughter, She has 2 children, which gives us 2 grandchildren. But we have raised together 12 children between 40 years old and 4 years old. I prayed for a big family.
Wow.
Not in that way. Those weren't the dots that I was looking at. Modeling and commercial acting was not my stopping point, but was a stepping stone to South Africa. And in South Africa, I thought that I wasn't to be on stage because I'm American and because, Americans can be very boisterous and very forthcoming and loud. And I didn't want to be that ugly American in Africa. I wanted to sit behind the scenes and allow Thabo and the Klankla and the Donnies of the world to go up there and do their thing and celebrate them. And God said, not on his watch. He said, I gave you a gift, and your gift was to be able to shine. So in order to shine, the gift that I have is to be on stage. It is to be on the forefront. And in 2013, I led the first Warriors through the mud, through razor wire, over freestanding walls and into 6 meters of water from a 6-meter height on a tower of rage at a warrior race. And since then, it was a reminder of who I am and who I am here, not only in South Africa, but in the world. And that is to inspire and motivate people to be their best, to go through the challenges, not to go around them.
Go through. I love that. Is your superpower the ability to reflect and change the course of your life, the trajectory of your life? Is that a superpower for you?
I think it's one of them. I think the more important one is to pursue peace, because the peace has got to be in the present. So Americans have gotten it wrong when they said, it's the pursuit of happiness. And I think that's where we've lost. We out here chasing dopamine, and many of us are too high. We're too high. We can't even pay attention to what's going on. We're flipping through beautiful graphics and all this cleavage and all this destruction. And we just scrolling through, and then we put the phone down and we're numb. It's like we're in this pursuit of wanting this extreme high when really what we need is that balance. So in the pursuit of peace, I can better navigate what happened in the past. So to your point, the superpower of being able to see, well, where did I come from? How did I get here? But it also helps me to engage fully and emotionally and meaningfully with you right now. I don't have any other distractions. The only distraction I have is anything that comes into my mind. That's good news, because God knows right now, between the phone and technology and interruptions and instant gratification and the importance of making sure that we catch up in business, there are many things that could be interrupting me right now. The only thing that can interrupt us right now on this conversation, Donnie, is something that goes in my head. And if it's not related to your question, if it's not related to our engagement, I have to take it out. So in the superpower of being present means that you have to be meaningful, which simply means that you have to be mindful. And when you are mindful, that means that you are aware of what you're doing while you're doing it. Be present. It goes back to being right here. It's about presence.
Why can't people do this on their own? Why do they need you?
The same reason why I need you. It's Ubuntu. Ubuntu, Ubuntu, Gabantu.
So we are meant to be together. We are born for community. We are born to walk together.
Brene Brown says the 3 key areas that we need to reflect on and to exercise includes courage, which we'll talk about in terms of bravery and how courage is unique to bravery. Compassion, which the world needs desperately now. But this third one, connectivity. Connectivity is because we are social creatures. Just like the school of fish, only better, because just as fish are diverse and they look different and they behave different, we have a myriad of differences. But until we are willing to ask the question, who are you, Donnie? And who are you here? And where are you from? And why do you speak that way? Until we're ready to do that, we're going to have these silly drive-by greetings that just go something like this. How you doing? Fine, thanks. And you? How are you? Surviving? How are you? I could be better. And what is that? You could be doing better? What, better than the man that's 6 feet under? Give me a break. So connectivity means we first have to start with this meaningful presence that genuinely asks, how you doing? I understand that every single person you greet or meet on the street, in the store, at home, you're not going to be able to have a meaningful engagement, but that opportunity is only going to be stirred or started by you being true to yourself, being authentic, and knowing that
brave,
you may not.
That's scary.
It's very brave.
That's saying open up and have a look at my heart.
Courage. Let's go straight to this other aspect that Brene Brown said. So connectivity is important, so we've got to connect. But before we get to connectivity, I speak at the warrior race about being brave. I ask, are you a warrior? They say, yes, I'm a warrior. And I said, like Joshua, when Moses was dead, Nelson Mandela is dead. He's gone. Stop talking to me about, the way things were. It is now up to you as a leader to be the Joshua, and you have to be strong and of good courage. So I would always say, when I say warrior, you say be brave. And that bravery felt so physical, Donnie. For the longest time, I felt like Mel Gibson in Braveheart with my sword and ready to stab someone, because I really felt this warrior thing and encompassing it, and the vibration I was feeling was really about bravery. But courage is something different. The word courage in the C-O-U-R is heart. And the two aspects of courage are very important. The one is that you must guard your heart because it's special and it's precious, but you also must be generous with your heart and give it. So it's about being strong and kind. You don't have to be either or. So as I greet someone, I'm using my heart wide open. I'm wide open. But if I find someone is there with an interest to hurt me, an interest to spread darkness that I can't quell at that moment, I can guard my heart and I can move on. So it's a constant pumping, like the heart pumps in and out, in and out. You pump it out for generosity and it retracts to guard itself.
But you're saying
better than bravery.
You're saying we need both elements. You need strong and kind. Without one, you get an imbalance. Do you think our society is imbalanced at the moment? Do you think we've got a 100%. Couple of problems?
100%. The biggest problem we have is judging a book by its cover. This conversation that we're having has prejudice. We can't get around it. We're humans. Our ears, our eyes, our nose, what we smell, we have been.
But you call it prejudice, I call it context.
It is context, but in the context of what we're speaking about, when we say what the problem is with the world today, it's prejudice. So my eyes that see a certain thing, an obese woman, if I see an obese woman, then I'm going to term her in my conceptual mind as fat, perhaps lazy. Can go even further and say she comes from a family that doesn't care. I can go that far in my prejudice. So we've got to learn to take prejudice with our naked eye, using our third eye, which is the spiritual eye, and unlearn the BS, which is our belief system. Not just religion, but also your environment, how your mother was, how your father was, your brother that bullied you, your cousin, sister that called you nasty. We have got to unlearn some of those behaviors. Even the systems that we have today of democracy, capitalism, socialism, communism, these words, as soon as you say this word, you say, oh, I know. That is like this, like that, without interrogation. So not judging a book by its cover means that you're prepared to unlearn some of your own bias, listening, not to respond, but listening to understand in compassion. There's the third C. That compassion then says, I haven't been to this place before. I haven't met Donnie. I don't know who Donnie is. So let me give him the opportunity to share humanity with me so that I can learn and develop and have a better understanding. The problem with the world is we're judging a book by its cover, and we're voicing our differences before we even give a person a chance to explain who they are and who they are in our current environment.
So let me ask you a practical three top tips for breaking that down. In your opinion, we get a young man who wakes up in Guguletu with a wet floor because he's living in a shack, and he looks at the house in Constantia where he sees a color living there, a person, and hates that society for where he is. Then you get another young boy who wakes up in a farm area where his neighbor's been murdered by a certain demographic, and he walks out hating that demographic because of what they represent and what they're taking from him, and they want to take because he's being blamed for 100 years of oppression. And how do we get these two parties together, in your opinion? What is that road to reconciliation for men in the street, young men who should be our future leaders? Or girls?
One is
I'm picking on guys because it was in front.
No. But those, and even the examples you've given, I mean, I haven't even taken them as gender specific or even town specific or even country specific, but certainly the chasm between rich and poor, the differences between race of black and white, not culture, but race, has become deeper. It's a deeper chasm than even what we experienced during apartheid. The reason for that is because of materialism. I believe that we're chasing the physical world. We're chasing a kingdom of Instagram posts that are perfect, so-called. Chasing,
so we're looking for outside verification, not inside. But what do we as the older generation do for those two scenarios? How do we bring them together? What do we do as adults who are learners, who are leaders, to get them together in love and compassion to move forward? What is your the first thing you must do is to find this inner warrior. No one can take your joy. They can steal your happiness, because as I was greeting people here in Boomspruit as I arrived, they could have told me to F off. They could have said foot safe. They could have said, what are you doing here? We don't serve your kind. They could have done any of that. They could have stolen my happiness. But my joy, no man, no woman can take. That is a spiritual inner warrior that you cannot take. So the first thing is you've got to build self-discipline, self-respect, and dignity. Can you hear self in that? Self-love. And the only way to do that is to have these rituals. I'm going to be I'm an Opa, Donnie, so I'm going to go a bit old-fashioned on you here, but old-fashioned works, my brother. There's some aspects of our BS that I mentioned earlier, belief systems. That's why I said that you have to examine it and unlearn it for yourself. But there's one thing that no one can tell me is not a good ritual, and that is making your bed in the morning. That aspect of making your bed in the morning has got so many connections to the brain waves emotionally, spiritually, and physically that I don't know of any better way to start your day, along with prayer and brushing your teeth. And there's a lot more, but there's something about that making your bed, that safety and sanctity that you had, where you have your dreams and your visions, where you pray, where you find solace, and quite honestly, where children are conceived. I mean, come on, that's a holy space. Let us be sure to make sure that those sheets are clean and fresh, and that the corners of those sheets are tight around those corners. Don't just throw the bed together. Treat it as your sanctity, as your holy space. There are people living under freeways. They're living on cardboard. You mentioned it, a Kailicha boy waking up with a wet floor. The people that are receiving this communication right now are blessed and highly favored simply because they've got a bed, if nothing else. So why aren't we doing more, especially at the crack of dawn, to say, I am grateful, and putting into action? Because our words are a creative force. There's no doubt about it. But I have begun to speak about the fact that it is time for South Africa, especially, to not just use our voice to power and to speak our voice to power, but to get these hands in the sand, to get in there and to start demonstrating what it is to protest peacefully, to be able to fight for what it is that you want as a rainbow nation, not as one sex versus another sex. So to rid some of the
the chasms of rich and poor and black and white and political party versus political party. We are going to have to come together as humanity in Ubuntu, speak our voice to power, and then act on it, because faith without work is dead.
Wow. There's a lot to unpack there. I had a throwaway question for you, which I'm not actually going to ask you because you've already answered it, which is, clearly it's worth working to save South Africa from its current trajectory. If you could change two things, it sounds like the first thing is roll up our sleeves to get dirty, so not talk about it, but actually start doing. What is the one improvement you would make if you were all powerful today to South Africa to get it on the right track?
Can I give you two?
Of course.
Can I give you two
Go.
things?
It's your show.
I want to give you two things that when we talk about speaking and speaking about, I'm a motivational speaker. I'm a life coach. I'm a presenter and an activist. My words have power. And so I'm very, very big on the importance of words. The two things that I would love for South Africans to remove from their vocabulary. The first one is shame.
You're going to have to translate that for me. It's not a word I have.
Oh, you don't know shame.
Oh, shame. I was making it. I thought, what the hell is he saying here? I lost him. Shame, man. We are victims of our own environment. There's nothing I can do because I am a victim. I will just stand behind my stove and I will complain about what my life is going through. Is that kind of the caricature?
It's called sympathy.
Oh, okay.
You know what sympathy is for, which is equated to the phrase shame.
Yeah.
It is for a funeral. We should only be saying shame with flowers over the grave or to the bereaved family. Then you can tell me shame. But you can't say shame, Rick is in the boom spray.
No.
Shame, we can't do the interview in person. Shame, it's going to rain. Shame, it's dark outside. Shame, it's winter. Shame, this person doesn't have clothes to wear. Why are you saying shame, but the person is alive? We need to start using empathy. So you say, Rick, I understand you're in Naboom Spray. I have a solution. Here's a Zoom link for you. So sympathy stops. Once you give me sympathy, it's a funeral. So then, well, there's no other option. I'm stuck in Naboom Spray. We can't have a conversation, and I might as well just try again tomorrow because that opportunity is dead. Yeah. So we need to remove shame is the one. The other one is I would love for people really around the world. This is not just a South African dynamic. Is I don't like those people. There's something about those people. Yeah. Which people are you talking about? I thought we are the people. So when you say those people, especially if you're talking to me and you say those people, I often say, but I am one of those people. They say, Rick, you behave that. No, it's not that I behave that way, and maybe it's wrong what they're doing. But when you say those people, I'm thinking you're pointing at them, but you got three fingers pointing back at yourself. So if we can remove shame in terms of sympathy and stop pointing fingers at the government, at the neighbor, at someone else's child, look at the way that child behaves. Instead of looking at the way that child behaves or taking a video of them or sharing it on WhatsApp, why not go to the child and suggest as a leader, whether you're a parent, an uncle, a cousin, brother, why don't you go to them and say, I recommend, or does your mommy know? Then we're getting involved. And people say, well, it's not your business, whatever. It is my business because it takes a village to raise a child, not just mommy and daddy. We don't even have mommy, daddy in the family anymore. It's go-go raising the children. So of course I've got to get involved because that impacts my community. Shame and those people need to go, Donnie.
What's your message to mid-career workers in the working world today?
Hang in there. Get ready for the ride. Get ready for the ride. It's going to be interesting, isn't it? We got bots coming in. artificial intelligence. We've got scaling down of organizations. You can't even find a branch in your local neighborhood anymore. Try to go to the bank and go to your local branch. They're saying, no, we're a digital bank now. We saw it coming. We knew it was coming. We're getting, our phones are no longer phones. I mean, the device is a transporter, like in Star Trek. They're taking us everywhere and nowhere at the same time. So the workers of today, especially my 18 to 30-year-old workers who have big aspirations and are excited to have a bright future, and they have to start there. By the way, you can't start with dismal. You can't. That's why you have to say, "Good morning. I'm blessed and highly favored, strong and mighty. I belong to a peculiar people, a holy nation they call South Africa." You got to call it like you want it. And then as you start your day and you go to work, even in corporate South Africa, you have to do those things that are going to make a difference, not only in your task, which is your job, but in your career, which has a bigger focus. That's where we bring in Ikigai, which is the Japanese word for purpose. So what you are good at, what you know you're good at, what people see you're good at, what you can get paid for, and what the world needs. Those four, that Venn diagram of four different sections meets in the middle with purpose. And right there in the middle with purpose is where you find profession, occupation, and most importantly, in my case, vocation. And with your vocation, you start recognizing that my job, which is part of my career, is only a small part of who I am and who I am here. I've also got my family relationships. I've also got my worshiping relationships in terms of fellowship. I've got my relationship with the corner store. So we learned in Ubuntu that it's all about relationships. I am because we are. So from a business perspective, if you want success, you're going to have to start managing relationships. Relationship with yourself first, then a relationship with your family, then a relationship with your colleagues who become your family at work. My best advice to them is to see a South Africa that they want, and then to be able to put it in practice with their financial means, with giving back, with getting their organizations to give back, and making their organizations part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Because what is the biggest problems we're facing now is self-servingedness, narcissism, greed, and corruption that are only serving a small sector of society, which is called the elite. Not the blacks, not the whites, not the Oppenheimers, not the Ramaphosa's, the elite. It's whoever is decided that we want to be separate. We want to be nobler than the gentleman in Kailicha. So we need organizations that say, not on my watch, that I'm going to do what is good and right by my values, which are that I am going to give so that I may receive.
How do you know when you engage with a company that they are going to embrace what you are teaching? What's the spark that said, boom, this is fertile ground?
Community. When an organization recognizes that they are part of the community, that they are serving the community, and that whatever their product or service is for the greater good of the community. Those are the organizations that I want to align with. And SPAR is one of them. And I don't mind saying that out loud here, because yes, they're a commercial organization, but they have proven time and time again that the work they are doing in the community during COVID, I even got involved without even asking them. I just went into my store and took a video and said, this is how we can help. And they said, Rick, we love that idea. Let's go ahead and promote it, across the nation as a COVID-19 campaign. Yeah. And you know what? I find that when these small little pebbles start falling into the pond and you have an organization that says we can amplify it, that's when you found an organization that is for the community. And SPAR is one of them. And there are lots more. There are lots more. And remember, there are organizations that have a strong CSR, corporate social responsibility, or corporate social investment arm, but the leader of the organization might be focused more on profits and losses. It's about getting the balance right. That if it is
making money is not evil.
No. Money's a facilitator. Money's a facilitator. if we don't have money, I cannot engage with you right now. This requires money and influence. So because of the fact that I had petrol in the vehicle, lots of tolls, by the way, to get here. I didn't know about all those tolls in the end. Oh my God.
Yeah.
The tolls. Anyway, if I didn't have the means to get through those tolls, which they take cash, my friend. So good luck. Eh? And you have to be able to use currency, which flows in and out. But a CEO of an organization needs to recognize that, as St. Francis de Assisi said, it is in giving that we receive. So the giving of the product, the giving of the service, the giving of your time, and the giving of resources, which includes money. When you put that on your triple bottom line, and you can see that the giving is building brand awareness, it's bringing the community, it's the law of attraction. You're attracting the right people to you, that you're of course going to be more profitable. But if you only look at the product, or you only look at the service, then you only have one stream of revenue. In the case of Spa, they got many streams of revenue because they are a brand in the community that is well known, well established, with a wonderful reputation, because they are givers and not solely receivers.
How do you stay current? I mean, your learning methods and your teaching methods, and that must evolve over time. Podcast, book, give us a few worth reading. Where do we learn?
So the key is to be prepared to unlearn. So a lot of times we think about learning and we just putting belief systems on top of belief systems, but they're in an echo chamber. So, as a Christian man from Berkeley, California, living in Boxburg, with 4 children and 2 grandchildren, I can get myself into an echo chamber. But I'm okay with unlearning some of the things that I've learned from Christianity, because remember, Christianity is man-made. The spirit of the religion is my spirituality. That is who I am, and that's who I'm connected. That's my faith. But the rules and regulations and the interpretation of the good book are man-made. And what is important is to make sure that you're prepared to investigate and go deeper and to study. Some of that is unlearning, like unlearning some of the things my mother taught me, or that my father taught me, or that my brother and sister taught me, that I might have thought as a child was Holy Grail. But then I realized, but that's patriarchal. So thank you, Dad, for that information. But that behavior is patriarchal. Even if he's, don't do as I say, do as I do, right? And as you watch that, you think some of the things that you've learned were not practical in a society that is practicing equity and equality. So the things that I read typically are things that are going to spark conversation. It's not the end all and be all. I've mentioned a few. Brene Brown, for one, I love her work. She's a psychologist and researcher, and her work on vulnerability and shame is where it all started. She's out of Houston, Texas. She's phenomenal. She's phenomenal in the way that she's amazing. That she puts it together, and has allowed me to be more authentic. And I say more authentic, not that I was fake, but I needed to know who I was. And in part, I had to be able to be prepared to expose myself, be prepared to demonstrate shame, things that I'm not proud of. But I have no regrets in life, only lessons. But I can't learn the lesson unless I self-realize and self-actualize some of those things. So Brene Brown is a big one. Brene Brown's a big, especially now.
Yeah. Where do people get hold of you? Before I miss that question, where can they get hold of you, and what do you offer companies or people, individuals?
We've got 1 minute, but if it cuts off, we'll repeat it, okay? So Warrior Ric. I'm a warrior, not a worrier, okay? So I'm at war against spiritual wickedness. So Warrior Ric, with no K on the end, just R-I-C, keep it simple, short for Ricardo. And you can find everything on Google by going to Warrior Ric, but warriorric.co.za is the website. The Warrior Ric on Instagram. There are ebooks that are be coming up soon. One is on Thrive. My first ebook, which I'm very excited about this year, is going to be called Thrive. And that is how we get through the survival mode and so-called coping mode to get to that thriving space every day.
What do they call you at home? Do they call you Warrior Ric?
I get abue. Abue is short for abuelo or abuelito in Spanish, which is grandfather or little grandfather.
¿Usted habla español?
Yo soy panameño. Mis padres son de Panamá.
No, yo no sé. Yo
Sí,
mochilar para
señor.
Sudamérica para 6 meses.
Ok,
Aprender un
bien.
poco de español.
Un poco. Hombre, hablas muy bien el español.
Mi
Qué
esposa
bueno,
vive
qué
en
bueno.
Chile para un año. Es una
Ah,
chilena, una
um,
rubia chilena.
you lucky fish.
I am. How do I spell warrior before we get on here?
WARRIOR.
That's what I had. Thank you.
And
All right.
then Ric is RIC.
Now I got that.
Mm,
So Warrior Ric, you were telling us what you
mm,
do for us and where folk can get hold of you. And I've just got a few questions. You've just blown my mind with such great wisdom. And I want to thank you for that and just honor you for that. The first is a little bit of a left field question. If you could go on holiday anywhere in our continent or in our country, where would you go and who are the 3 people that you would take with you in addition to your family if you could choose anyone?
Oh, wow. That's a brilliant question. I've been blessed to travel quite a bit throughout the world, including Africa. And what has been for the last 5 years quite special is the bush. And I'm speaking about Kruger National Park, Sabi Sands. So I would say that anywhere in the bush, and maybe a new place, maybe, I've been to Timbavati as well, which is not far from Bloomsbury where I am here, which is stunning. But let's just say the bush. Is that okay? We'll say the bush because it's got many options. The bush is big, massive. I think it's something like 3 million hectares in terms of Kruger National Park. And then the 3 people besides it, because my wife is coming, bro. She's allowing me
No, she's going
on that journey.
I get it. You can bring your whole family, but I want 3 people that you would.
Want 3, yeah. I just want to let you know that my wife is not an adventurer, Hank,
No.
but glamping is for her 100%. So no bush journey for work, pleasure, or both. She's not missing that. So it used to be Cape Town, Durban, the usual suspects, but now glamping in the bush is like number 1.
So my wife camped for 19 days in Botswana. She loves the bush. She is there.
I know.
Yeah.
No, it's stunning. It's stunning, and it's peaceful and quiet. So that's the place. That's the location. I'm even going to answer your question. I'm even going to make it interesting for me and perhaps for the listeners. Is I'm not even going to consider friends, which would be some obvious ones, but you won't know who they are. So I'm going to stretch and try to find 3 people, call them celebrities or known people that would join us. Is that okay? How's that?
Yes, that's what I'm looking for.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I gotta make a call to Barack Obama here. I got you.
Can you imagine having 3, just him there,
brother,
just to chat and learn? Yes. Okay. Very good suggestion.
So Barack Obama, I'm not going to give an explanation. If we have time, I'll do explanation perhaps on each, but I just want to start there. I think he's still alive. I believe he's still alive. The Dalai Lama.
Wow. So Barack and the Dalai Lama. How are you going to get down and have a glass of whiskey? Yeah. Now we got one more. You got space for one more.
Authenticity, brother. Listen, authenticity. I enjoy beer. I enjoy wine. I enjoy whiskey. And moderation, we can still in conversation. We can still be kind to each other and loving. So even with the Dalai Lama, why not? Why not? And the third one, posthumously, as we say, would have been Frida Kahlo, because I've been doing a lot of work on that woman. Frida Kahlo has blown my mind. She's training me to be a feminist. That's what she's doing.
Wow.
She's training me to understand this whole thing of equality and how to end gender-based violence, and it's because of Spa. Spa was the one that said, Rick, we want you to do a talk on Frida Kahlo. I'm like, well, anything else? Can you give me any information? Frida Kahlo was enough, and it's a depth So can I do that one posthumously, as they say?
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
Barack Obama, because I just want to know, being the first Black president of America, what did that take? What were the stumbling blocks? And I can only assume, right? And also what more could you have done? Would you have done? Some people say that he was just a neutral president. A lot of his things didn't get passed, because of who he was. But I would want to know if Congress had passed some of the things, what would have been the key things he would have wanted to be passed? Because I just see him as such a great leader with great vision, great ideas, and he's for the people. So that's Barack Obama. Dalai Lama is more for where I am now with this inner warrior. I want to pray better. I want to meditate better. I want to get into a space of pursuing peace better. I want to block out the Goliaths in my head. I want to have that strong David culture of using everything I've got, which is just me. I don't need weapons and I don't need materialism. I just need me to fight the nonsense that's going on in my head. And I think Dalai Lama would help me to pray better, meditate, focus, and to focus on the important things, not the material things, including food, including the things that we think are so important that block our trajectory to greatness. And finally, Frida Kahlo, which I love art. I love the fact that she found beauty in sorrow. She found beauty in pain. David said, I was glad that I was afflicted so that I might learn thy statutes. That's what Frida Kahlo did. She was painting in bed while she had broken pelvis, broken foot, a metal shaft that had gone through her stomach and her uterus so that she couldn't have children. And she so desperately wanted to have children. And yet she was able to do her purpose with passion and to become one of the greatest artists of the 20th century and someone that we as men and women can all look up to. Those are three that I need. I need 3 months in the bush, and I'm going to give them equal time I'm just going to shut up and press record and do a lot of listening. Almost like what you're doing with me.
Wow, that's good. I like that. I like that mix. I'm going to ask you 2 very quick questions
Sure.
Because our time's running out. Over the last 3 years, everyone's had a hard time. What did technology do for you? How did it make it more fun? And what's been the best learning during the last 3 years? Very tough question. And then I'll wrap up with one more.
That's an easy one, and I'll be very brief with it. I went on to Instagram Live. Immediately, we kind of turned the house into a gym, and I started to film around the house, the kids running around. My wife, it was crazy. I mean, she did 5 kilometers around a very small yard, relatively small yard. And soon after that, I just started going on to Live IG and just sharing my experience and talking about a post-COVID world. Check that out.
Wow.
I said conversations with a warrior for a post-COVID world. And that's how I started. So technology was my friend. I made it my friend, and I connected, which is so important, connectivity that we talked about without being physically present. But I was very present and very expectant back in March of 2020. And here I am now in July of 2022, living in an extraordinary year and a comeback season that has me much better than what I was before COVID.
Amen. And as our final question to you before I wrap up, what is the one question you wish I'd asked you?
Donnie, introspection and trying to find the best me every day. You've touched on a lot of who I am and who I am here. And that's really special to me now in terms of authenticity. But I guess what you could have asked me is a question that many of your audience members might need. And that is, what failures have I encountered? What shame, what things, do I feel make me vulnerable that I've had to overcome in order to be a better person and to challenge myself?
Sure. What is that shame that you had to put behind you and you had to face with God?
You see, I knew it. I set myself up. And this is where Brene Brown comes in, and she says, Rick, just go there. Just go there. But do I have to? Yes, you do, because there are people who are suffering from mental depression. There are people who are suffering from anxiety. I had a bit of that. I had a bit of plenty of depression and anxiety soon after my first trip to South Africa, because I was married. I engaged in infidelity, and it resulted in my wife being pregnant with our first son. And, you know, all of that sounds complex and it sounds complicated, and it was. It's no less complex today, but in wisdom, I've learned that it was for my good. There are casualties. My first wife, my daughter in the States, my family, you know, some may still be reeling from it and still might find pain, but I cannot live their lives and I cannot have regret, because I have to go forward. So I've taken the lessons of infidelity, child out of wedlock, children out of wedlock, if you will. And I've learned that all of these things are challenges and some poor decisions, at the time, poor decisions that somehow in God's mysterious way allowed it to happen. So you kind of ask yourself, but if that is immoral, if it goes against the 10 Commandments, you know, you should be then struck to hell, and you should be, you know, chastised, and you should feel bad. But then there's no condemnation in Christ.
But
and I can
grace.
put on the new cloak. It's grace. I can put on the new cloak of righteousness and say, learn from it. Don't do it again. Apologize. All of that I've done. And then you realize that your vulnerability and your exposure, for example, this story, is to remind yourself that you are but a speck. You are just a sand on a quite a small planet in comparison to the sun and our galaxy. And yet God cares for you so much that he would have you do greater things than these in your sins. As long as you've forgiven yourself, and as long as you have reconciliation with yourself and your God and your universe and the cosmos, you can pursue peace, and you can recognize that although your intentions may have been good, you can do bad things. Bad things happen to good people. And at the same time, you just have to remember that we are all human and that we all come short of the glory of God. But my friend, when you wake up each morning with new mercies and grace, all you have to do in your prayer is say 2 words, and that is thank you. And in Afrikaans, it's even shorter. You can just say dankie.
You have just made my day. You have just, thank you. I can't wait for you to come back to Joburg. I want to give you a squeeze. I just want to give you a big squeeze and give you a love, because life rocks if you let it, and you live a rocking life. And that's where I'm ending it. You're not allowed to say anything more. Warrior Ric, go forth and conquer, empower people, let them find peace through their vulnerability, let them find peace and reconciliation. Let's change South Africa. And thank you for everything that you do. I'm Daniel, your host. I am about to go and jump on the trampoline. I'm so energized by this talk. Warrior Ric, thank you for your time.
God bless you, my brother. And I know I'm not supposed to say anything more, but I will leave you with this one thing. And it's a question. And it's important that you answer me. Where are my soldiers at?
Here! Come on! Have a brilliant day. Thank you for your time, dude.
God.